When I lived in Portland, we had publicly financed elections. I know that there was a ballot initiative that stripped them after the city spent $1.75 million supporting publicly owned elections. Craig Holman is on the line with us. He's the government affairs lobbyist with Citizen.org, Public Citizen. Craig, welcome to the program.
Hi, glad to be here.
There is a concerted effort by the right now to say publicly funded elections are inherently anti-democratic because the government is involving itself in the electoral process and helping pick winners and losers when, in fact, the private marketplace should do that. How do you respond to that?
Well, there is indeed a concerted effort by conservatives to try to wipe out public financing of elections and replace it entirely with special interest financing. Now, they've got a lot of support on the Supreme Court with 5 justices when it comes to eliminating things like disclosure or weakening the campaign finance, public financing systems. However, one thing I do want to point out that despite the fact that there are 5 justices on the court ever since George Bush was able to appoint Roberts and Alito to the court, the 5 justices have made a very conservative majority, and they have allowed corporate money to flow unfettered into elections, but they have not yet struck down public financing. And that's one important thing we have to
But how,
recognize.
The way that public financing worked in Arizona and the way it worked in Portland when I lived there was you got a lump sum of money when you could demonstrate a certain level of support. In Portland, I think it was $100,000. And if your opponent, who was privately financed, spent more than $100,000, then in Portland, the city would come up with the extra. Say the opponent spent $125,000, so the city comes up with another $25,000 for you to spend. That becomes a news story because the government is transparent, and which raises questions in people's minds. Where did the opponent come up with that $25,000? Which actually is like, it's like forced transparency in a way. That is what the Supreme Court declared was unconstitutional in the Arizona case yesterday, or the day before, whenever it was. And how do you have publicly financed elections without some sort of matching amounts as money gets escalated in a world where there's virtually unlimited money, particularly for Republican candidates?
We've already designed models that can survive that type of Supreme Court decision. You see, that has its origins in a court case about 2 years ago called Davis versus FEC. And unbelievably, these 5 justices are saying that we are somehow denying the free speech rights of the well-financed candidates by providing all other qualified candidates with additional funds so everyone can talk. Somehow that's denying free speech rights.
That's not the language that they would use. What they would say and what their supporters say is that basically this is a welfare program and that you're taking people who are politically unqualified, and the proof of that is that they can't raise enough money to run a campaign, and the government is taking these people and raising them to the status of somebody who is politically qualified because they can raise enough money to run a campaign.
Raising private money is not a sign of qualification. By the way, about 70% of all candidates that ran in Arizona participated in the public financing program. It is not a weakness to try to turn down money from private corporations or special interests, saying, no, I'd rather just have public funds, just clean money, so I don't have any obligations to some other private special interest. That's not a sign of weakness. Now, I do want to emphasize, by the way, in the McComish decision where the 5 justices came out with an incredulous decision that by providing additional public funds to candidates somehow undermines free speech, they were also asked to throw out public financing altogether, and the Supreme Court refused to do so.
Right.
So public financing as a system stands, although we've got to revise the form of it. The Arizona model, which we're talking about here, is called the Clean Elections model, which really is the best system. Mm-hmm. I mean, that eliminates all private special interest money, and qualified candidates are just funded just by public funds.
Right, but when those public funds are capped, and when you're running against an opponent who is willing to exceed that cap, you're hobbled. I mean, this is why President Obama decided to opt out of federal funds in 2008.
That's correct. And so we've redesigned the new public financing programs to accommodate that. We have one introduced in Congress right now called the Fair Elections Now Act. And what it does is it provides a 5-to-1 public matching fund program for private contributions. So then we don't actually have to cap the amount of money that gets brought in. And we don't have to provide additional funds against a wealthy, privately financed candidate, because we allow all candidates, even the publicly financed candidates, to continue raising small contributions if they deem it necessary.
So if I'm a small candidate, to use your phrase, in other words, a candidate who's not Carly Fiorina with millions of bucks in her back pocket, if I'm one of those candidates and I raised from the people $1 million to run, and my opponent has got $1 million on the line, or I got $1 million in federal matching funds, let's say, then for every $100 that I raise beyond that, the federal government will give me 400 or 500?
400 or 500 additional funds.
Right.
That's correct. And that way, once even the public funds caps out and you no longer get any additional public funds, you still can raise private contributions in small amounts of $100 or less.
And then get matching funds against those?
Up to a limit. I mean, we provided up to a limit. We're not going to bankrupt the government to provide unlimited matching funds.
That's the problem. I mean, you've got people on Wall Street who are literally earning $2 and $3 billion a year. And, between McCain and Obama in the last election, between the two of them, they spent, about $1.7 billion, as I recall?
Yes,
and so if you got, 10 of these hedge fund managers and each one of them committed 3 months worth of pay in a 4-year election cycle, to just say, we're going to make sure that a Republican is appointed so that the Supreme Court will continue, so that the next appointments to the Supreme Court will continue to support us, and so that we'll continue to have our carry forward earned tax credit, whatever the thing is, so that they basically pay no income taxes, and we'll continue to have capital gains of 15%, so that, this is an investment for these guys.
Yeah, no doubt it's a problem. But with the Fair Elections Now Act, we can provide a lot of generous public funds so that all qualified candidates can get their message out.
So what's the possibility that the Republicans are going to support this?
At this point, we're waiting for some scandals to happen to get the Republicans on board. But many of the Democrats are really advocating this. We're going into the 2012 elections, and we're going to see the most obscene amount of corporate and private special interest money spent electing our president as well as Congress, and I hope that's going to provide the impetus for the public to call for reform. We can set up a good, solid public financing program and still remain within the constraints that the Supreme Court is offering at this point.
Yeah, Karl Rove has already started it. $20 million to take down President Obama, already running the ads, blaming the economic disaster on the president, and Paul Begala's group is pushing back. So we've got already the war of the private groups has started even before there's a Republican candidate. The other issue is cash in campaigns. Most other advanced democracies either ban political advertising on commercial television and radio media. They just say you can't do that, or they have an election period that is so short that the elections are called and boom, it happens within 6 weeks. So it's a matter of people getting to know the candidate. You've got to go back to retail politics. You've got to get out and shake hands. I realize for somebody running for Senate in a state as large as California, that's damn near impossible. But how do we get? Can you imagine? Has Public Citizen ever come up with any model to get around the Supreme Court's long-term position that the First Amendment right of free speech extends most extensively to political speech, and that from the Buckley case, that money equals speech, and therefore unlimited amounts of money can be spent on politics in any media?
Public Citizen is advocating a constitutional amendment to reverse these Supreme Court decisions. I mean, these are very detrimental, harmful decisions that have a long-term effect on the health of our democratic system.
Right.
It really allows corporate money and special interest money to flow in unlimited amounts, and lately even in secretive amounts. I mean, literally, corporate secret slush funds are now taking over our financing.
Yep.
We do have models that will address it. The clean elections model was, in my opinion, the best. We've got the Fair Elections Now model, which is very, very good and can also address this.
Right.
The main problem with the Fair Elections Now model is we have to get it through Congress.
Right.
And at this point, Republicans know that most of this secret corporate slush fund money
is going to them.
To back them.
Yeah,
and
there
so
you go.
They're
you know,
not
if you really want to amend this the Constitution to take it back actually to its original intent, nowhere in the Constitution is judicial review provided for. Nowhere in the Constitution does it give the judiciary the right to strike down laws passed by Congress and the Senate. And that was decided. That was a power that was taken by the Supreme Court onto itself when John Marshall was the Chief Justice in 1803 in the Marbury versus Madison case. That's the one that needs to be reversed, if I may respectfully say so.
I agree with you, by the way.
Oh, that's amazing. It's so rare to find somebody who actually even understands the issue, much less agrees with me. Craig Holman with Public Citizen, citizen.org. Thanks so much for being with us, Craig.
Thanks for inviting
Thomas Jefferson, by the way, agrees with both of us. I don't know if you've read his letters. He says, this decision has made the Constitution a thing of wax.